Tiffany Henyard has officially hit a new low, and now she's admitting it. She's broke. But here's the kicker. She's asking regular folks like us to fund her luxurious lifestyle. Can you believe it? This is the same woman who used to throw money around like it grew on trees. And now, she's turned to GoFundMe to cover her outrageous spending habits. Remember those banners she splurged $199,000 on? Yeah, she can't even pay the bill for them. The situation is as messy as it gets. Tiffany once lived like royalty, all funded by taxpayer dollars. We're talking luxury trips, a $1 million security team, and perks most people could only dream of. But wait, it gets even juicier. Allegedly, she borrowed millions of dollars and used city infrastructure as collateral. Now creditors are coming after her and lawsuits are piling up. It's not just her who's in trouble. This mess is spilling over onto the people of Dalton too. Before we dive deeper into Tiffany's mounting debts, let's take a look at how she turned taxpayer money into her personal piggy bank. Get this. She spent more on welcome banners than some residents of Dalton earn in an entire year. She acted like the city handed her a blank check and had no problem maxing it out. One banner alone reportedly cost $999,000. Another set of banners with her face plastered on them, a whopping $119,000. Meanwhile, the average household in Dalton struggles to get by on less than $30,000 a year. It's like she's completely out of touch with reality. And while Tiffany was out there living it up, Dalton was drowning in debt. The fire department hasn't had a proper contract in over 5 years, leaving brave firefighters without fair pay or benefits. Yet Tiffany was busy splurging on welcome signs and taking trips to Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, rumor has it she was living large while the people of Dalton barely made ends meet. And that's not even the worst part. Wait until you hear what's coming next. Solitary confinement, and that's not even the worst part. Wait until you hear what's coming next. Tiffany's security detail was costing the town hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. Some officers were raking in over $133,000 per pay period just from overtime. Yes, you read that right. That's more than some people make in 3 or 4 years. It's like she thought she was a celebrity. But here's the difference. Celebrities pay for their own luxuries. Tiffany, she was using taxpayer dollars to fund her extravagant lifestyle. Now the town is struggling to pay its bills. The company that made those over-the-top welcome banners, they're still waiting for payment. And they're not the only ones. But Tiffany didn't stop at draining public funds. Oh no. She took out personal loans worth millions of dollars, and now she can't pay those back either. It's like she believed the money would never run out. But guess what? It always does. Now, the police department is at risk of losing its vehicles because the town can't pay its debts. Imagine calling 911 and finding out there's no car to respond. What's next? Are cops on horseback or hitching a ride with Uber? As if that wasn't enough, let's talk about her so-called side hustle. Tiffany allegedly found a way to turn crumbling walls into cash. She wasn't just burning through taxpayer money. She reportedly had a shady operation going on with Section 8 housing. Tiffany owned a property and was cashing Section 8 government subsidies while the place was falling apart. Moldy walls, water damage, you name it. By November 2019, the property was declared uninhabitable. But that didn't stop her. She allegedly kept collecting checks without fixing a thing, replaced the furniture, and made a move to get Section 8. While everyone else was figuring out how to clean up her mess, Tiffany Henyard was busy ignoring the chaos she created. And just when you think the drama might be winding down, it gets worse. You'd think after everything, she'd step back and focus on damage control. Nope. Instead, she kept pocketing money while her Section 8 tenants were left living in conditions that could make anyone sick. Let's talk inspections. They're supposed to catch these problems, right? But the inspection history on Tiffany's property is as shady as it gets. It's almost as if she thought she could sweep the issues under the rug and keep the checks rolling in. The worst part? These weren't just random properties. Real people were living there. Families already struggling financially were stuck dealing with leaking ceilings, mold-covered walls, and unlivable conditions. So, meanwhile, Tiffany was out here cashing government checks meant to provide decent housing, while, this isn't just careless, it's heartbreaking. And it doesn't stop at one apartment. It's part of a much bigger picture of financial mismanagement and corruption under her leadership. Every time you turn around in Dalton, another scandal tied to Tiffany pops up. What's got everyone fuming is Tiffany's attitude. She's acting like she's untouchable, living it up on taxpayer money, with luxury trips, flashy banners, and who knows what else, all while her tenants and her town crumble. It's like she forgot her job was to serve the people, not herself. Now the question everyone's asking is what happens next? When you mess with government money like Tiffany allegedly has, it usually ends badly. Think lawsuits, federal investigations, and potential criminal charges. And this Section 8 scandal? It might just be the thing that finally brings her down. Legal justice. And this Section 8 scandal? It might just be the thing that finally brings her down. Here's the kicker. While this financial disaster was brewing, Tiffany was still playing the role of mayor, pretending everything was fine. Decisions were being made, chaos was bubbling in the background, and she acted like she could keep it all under wraps. But the FBI? Oh, they noticed. Now the feds are knee-deep in her financial dealings, and the findings are far from pretty. This isn't just a casual review. They've subpoenaed her personal bank transactions and the township's financial records. They're not leaving any stone unturned. What they've uncovered so far? Juicy. Turns out, Tiffany's spending spree didn't stop at welcome banners and Vegas trips. She allegedly funneled taxpayer money into all kinds of personal luxuries, from extravagant vacations to private security expenses that rival celebrity entourages. And here's the plot twist. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot has been brought in to oversee the investigation. Lori's not playing around. She's peeling back the layers of Tiffany's administration, uncovering financial mismanagement at every turn. Every drawer they open reveals more skeletons. Meanwhile, Tiffany's reputation is plummeting fast. The people of Dalton are demanding answers and accountability. They trusted her to lead, but instead got a financial disaster. Local business owners and former employees are stepping forward, sharing their stories with the FBI. The feds aren't holding back either. They've got electronic surveillance in place, watching Tiffany's every move and waiting for her to slip up. But Tiffany? She's trying to shift the blame, pointing fingers at her former chief aide, Keith Freeman, claiming he handled the finances. "At least I appreciate that you oversaw some classes," Travis said. "Way too often." Here's the problem with that. When you're the mayor, the buck stops with you. You don't get to pass the blame and walk away. Speaking of walking away, Tiffany seems to have perfected the art of disappearing. She's been MIA from 25 board meetings. Yes, 25. Imagine any regular person skipping work that many times. They'd be fired without a second thought. And word on the street? She's selling off personal belongings just to scrape by. Her high-rolling lifestyle has caught up with her, and now she's struggling to keep the lights on. Back in Dalton, the fallout continues. Dalton is crumbling under the weight of debt, and with Tiffany Henyard playing ghost mayor, the village board has had enough. They've appointed trustee Jason House as a temporary mayor. Yes, they had to call in a substitute because Tiffany couldn't be bothered to show up. While she's off hiding, the town is millions of dollars in the hole, and the hardworking people of Dalton are left to deal with the fallout from her reckless spending. Tiffany has earned a new nickname, Ghost Mayor. She's there in name only, completely missing when it matters most. Running a town isn't like ghosting a bad Tinder date. You can't just leave people on red when they're counting on you. While Tiffany's busy playing hide and seek, the people of Dalton are left wondering how they ended up with a mayor, more interested in dodging responsibility than fixing the mess she made. It's like they elected a magician whose final trick was disappearing when things got tough. But this isn't some magic show. This is real life with real consequences. While Tiffany's off doing who knows what, Dalton is stuck in limbo. No leadership, no direction, just mounting questions and a growing pile of debt. It's like the captain jumped ship in the middle of a storm, leaving the crew to fend for themselves. That's creepy to think about for a second. And while Dalton fights to stay afloat, Tiffany's cooking up a new mess. Instead of taking responsibility, she's pointing fingers. First up in her blame game, Keith Freeman. Tiffany's singing like a canary, claiming she relied on him for the financial decisions that landed her in hot water. It's like she's trying to convince us she was just a puppet and Freeman was pulling the strings. But here's the reality. Tiffany was the one pulling all the strings. It's not too toxic, it's not too bad, and Freeman was pulling the strings. As mayor, the buck stops with her. She can't just shrug it off and say, "Oops, my bad." And Freeman's not the only one in her sights. She's facing lawsuits left and right, each one messier than the last. We're talking wrongful termination, retaliation, and more. It's like she ran Dalton like her personal kingdom, punishing anyone who didn't play by her rules. One former HR manager says she was fired for refusing to cover up public records. She owed the company $3,000, and more likely, she was paying for her own personal trainer. And most people aren't. Another employee claims he was let go for not going along with a plan to replace a school attorney. Tiffany didn't stop at mistreating her employees. She allegedly went after business owners who didn't support her. One business owner, Lawrence Gardner, says the police harassed him and pulled his business license after he refused to donate to one of Tiffany's events. Sounds like a classic shakedown, doesn't it? And about all that money Tiffany was flaunting, a lot of it wasn't even hers. She borrowed from everywhere, and now creditors are knocking on Dalton's door demanding their money back. It's like she thought she was running a Ponzi scheme instead of a town. Here's the wildest part. Tiffany didn't just borrow money. She used public infrastructure as collateral. That's right, she put up city property to secure loans. Now creditors want the town's infrastructure to settle the debts. Imagine that, the roads, buildings, and utilities that belong to the people of Dalton are at risk because of Tiffany's reckless behavior, and she's earned the respect for her failure and also loyalty because of Tiffany's reckless behavior. As if all this wasn't enough, Tiffany has now launched a GoFundMe page. Yes, the same person who spent taxpayer money like it was Monopoly cash is now begging regular folks to help her out. After all her lavish trips and extravagant spending, she's asking the public to open their wallets for her. The people of Dalton aren't having it. How does someone go from living large to asking for handouts? All those millions, and she didn't save a penny. Now she's asking for yet another bailout. Some are even questioning whether this GoFundMe is real or just another scam. With her history of pulling fast ones, it's hard not to be skeptical. Many believe this might be her way of gathering money to skip town and leave Dalton to clean up her mess once again. It's like her final act, playing the victim to gain sympathy and distract from her shady actions. And once again, some of that act is filled with hindsight. So it's like her final act, playing the victim to gain sympathy and distract from her shady actions. But the people of Dalton are waking up to her tricks, and they're demanding answers. The people of Dalton aren't about to forget Tiffany Henyard's mess anytime soon. While she's out here trying to drum up sympathy, the town is still drowning in debt. Police cars are on the verge of being repossessed, the fire department hasn't had a contract in years, and Dalton's credit is in shambles. But sure, Tiffany, tell us again how you're the one who needs help. Sorry, Tiffany. Tell us again how you're the one who needs help. It's like Tiffany lives in her own little bubble where actions have no consequences. She treated Dalton like her personal piggy bank for years, and now that it's all come crashing down, she thinks she can just ask for a do-over. Newsflash, that's not how this works. People are starting to wonder, what's the real purpose of her GoFundMe? Is she trying to pay off her debts? Or is this just her latest scheme to fund another escape? Tiffany's always had a knack for vanishing when the going gets tough. Here's the kicker. Despite everything, she somehow managed to raise $155,000 through her GoFundMe. Yes, people are still falling for it. But let's be real, $155,000 won't even make a dent in the millions she owes. It's like trying to put out a wildfire with a water gun. Meanwhile, the people of Dalton are still stuck dealing with the fallout from her reign, and the internet isn't holding back. Social media is blowing up with comments calling Tiffany out for her arrogance and lavish lifestyle. "She's got an ego the size of Dalton," one commenter wrote. "True leaders don't talk down to their people." Another added, "She's been doing this for years because she can. Who's going to stop her?" Some even think she's untouchable. "The feds won't do anything," someone said. "She checks too many diversity boxes: Black, woman, Democrat. She's in a protected class. Black privilege in action," another chimed in. "She's already stolen millions and now she's playing victim." The debate is heated. Is Tiffany being set up, or is she really out here stirring the pot? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the next video for even more tea.